All right. Online students, how many of you are online? All right. So is it the interesting topic or is it getting very hard for you to understand? All right, so one of your friend has raised a question that how Python can be used to secure, or how Python can be used in as a data scientist, right? Is that the correct questions? Yes. So in case of data science, right, how it can be used to secure the data? Because while we talk about the data analysis or the big data analysis, right? So we incorporate lots of tools, right? So I'm not very familiar with the lots of tools into it, but some of the tools can be uh, PySpark, right? Spark developed by Apache Technologies, and it can be a Hadoop that you can create out of it. So, and some of the Python libraries that you can use is scikit-learn or pandas or any of the other available technologies. But how do we implement security in case of uh, while working as a data scientist, right? So let's say working as a data scientist, you get to engage with lots of data, right? So lots of data means most of the data are very much important, which needs a security, or which if it goes in the bad hands, right, it can cause a very bad havoc, right? It can create a very bad scenario, lots of loss, financial loss, people data loss. And in case of that, how do you secure it, right? As we already talked, that in transition, the data needs to be secure. The first thing. The second thing, while you host your data, while you keep your data in data, data center, let's say, if you have a very big data, you store somewhere. If you use the cloud, you might be storing it in the Amazon S3 buckets or Azure files, wherever you store your data, right? Because your main job will be to analyze all those data and get the results out of those data or plot it somewhere graphically and make a sense of those data. So in that process, how can you blend in the security, right? Encrypting it securely, decrypting it securely, right? So when you manage that key combination, or when you use all those keys with a larger size, let's say 2048 bits of size, I have been using, let's say, which seems it's in with not crackable yet. So if I use those sorts of encryption technologies, or make or run it in the clusters, run it in the secure clusters. So most of the data breach is in transition. We all know that, and also the uh, insecure APIs or insecure endpoints. Suppose to fetch that data, somebody has to hit that IP addresses, or somebody has to hit that URL, right, with a secure login. If you create a secure login using a Python, right, then you will be able to secure, you will be able to create a security, right, by 90%. because none of the vulnerable hackers or none of the vulnerable users can get into it in an insecure way that's 90% secure. Even if someone gets into it insecurely, right? With suppose somebody get in there using somebody else's session, how do you secure it, right? In case of that, you can use your machine learning technique, right? You can implement your machine learning technique using the libraries available and encrypt that data or provide only the limited amount of data, right? And you can implement a security in such a way that suppose you can create an access control out of it. Python can be used to create an access control. Suppose somebody with this level of access can only access this level of data or limited amount of data. Somebody with the managerial level of access, he or she can get all this data or maybe 50% of the data. So all those sorts of technologies can be implemented in case of that. But access control and authorization is the must, which you can implement it using the secure Python code in your applications. Did I answer your question? So threat intelligence gathering. What is threat intelligence gathering? Lots of things going on in the world, right? Lots of things going on. Lots of servers being hacked. Lots of ransomware, like somebody encrypts the data in somebody's server and asks for certain $1 million to get it decrypted, right? So threat intelligence gathering, right? You can use a Python code to get into the dark web, right, and find out what's happening over there, right? What are the new tools and technologies, or what are the new techniques that's being built up by the hackers itself? You can scrap it out if you are very technical into it. You can find all those public APIs. Okay, so suppose if the data is being shown in all those available public APIs, so what each and every APIs that's available public will have a data. So if that data is meant to be publicly available or not, right? If you can check all those pre-checks, do all those pre-checks, and threat intelligence means so every system, whatever the operations that happens, it creates a logs in the system, right? It creates a log. Suppose somebody logs into the system, it creates a log. Somebody logs out from the system, it creates a log. Somebody fetched this data, somebody visit this URL, how many times did that person spend in that URL, right? All those things comes in. So threat intelligence helps you gather all those data, what's going on in the world, which is the hot hacking topics going on in the world, right? Which is the hot vulnerabilities that's going in the world. Suppose there is a 0-day vulnerability. 0-day vulnerability means which comes, right? People will not have a knowledge about it until it happens, right? So it happens at the right time and the data get breached, right? So, and if there is a threat going on, let's say if there is an insider threats or not, suppose somebody might be using a ticketing system or tools or communications, let's say Teams communications, is there some communications going on to breach the data from inside the company itself, right? You can look into it, right? Because that's what make your company secure. You can embed it inside the policies. Okay, if you join my company, your private messages to your team members inside the company will be read, right? Suppose in our company, let's say in anti-government, if I write down, okay, if I discuss with some of my other colleagues, okay, we have to get this data, sell it out, we have to hack this data, sell it out to someone else, I will get caught. How? because people don't have time to read each and every messages that I do, right? There will be so many communications going on, right? I discuss with my friends about the project that's going on now, right? So from that part, right? From that part, you can set up in your Python applications, or you can, there are lots of available tools as well, in which you can just set up the level of security that you want to maintain. But all those tools uses the Python at the back end, at the back, to get all those data, to fetch all those data. There will be lots of data going on. Let's say in anti-government, there are more than 100,000 employees. For example, if there are more than 100,000 employees in the company, right? So there will be discussions on something inside the departments or outside the departments. There will be a discussion going on. Suppose if it is an insider threats that's coming in, how do they know about that? Suppose I discussed with my friends in the Teams channel itself. Suppose all the companies, big companies use these days use Teams or any of the communication channel, and they read all those messages, right? They read all those messages because they have that policy over there. They read all those messages because if I email my, not emailing has the more restriction in case of that. If I talk with my friends, okay, I have this data in this company, but if I get this data, I can sell it somewhere. Can you find the bidder? That's a sample message, right? So if those kinds of things are going on, the cybersecurity analyst will know that. What's going on over there? This messages looks dodgy, right? They are trying to hack into the systems. Until and unless they use the secure code, okay, they manage to do that. But even if they use the secure code, there is a behavioral analysis thing, right? Behavioral analysis means what are the messages that you are doing. It learns you first. It learns you first, and if there is slight distraction, because if you are trying to do something wrong, right, you will obviously make a mistake, right? That's the people's behavior. It does the behavioral analysis and finds out what's happening over there. And threat intelligence, that's for the internal threats. What about the external threats that might come up? What's something, what is the conversation going on in the dark web? What are the new tools that's coming in the dark web? Because we don't know that, right? So what about the internet that we used, right? World Wide Web. That's only 3.6%. Whatever you Google it and find all those results URLs, that's only 3.6% of the internet. There is big bunch of internet going on in the dark web and the deep web. We don't even know that, right? So all those things, okay, suppose somebody faced an issue of the Log4j, right? Somebody got hacked back then, last year or the previous year. Somebody got hacked, but how do the whole world knew about that? Because there is a threat intelligence going on. Like people can know from the conversations that, okay, this is being hacked. Now it should go viral. Okay, every servers in the world using that tool needs to be updated right now. Otherwise, it's going to create a whole big mess in the world because people are uh, relied into it. People are using it. So all those comes up, all those IDS, right? We talked about the intrusion detection system. Each and every access that you do inside the internal network or the external network, right? Suppose if I go inside the internal network, let's say, if you work in a company, if you go inside the internal network, you try to get access to the files, you don't have the access, right? To do that, you use multiple techniques. Maybe you use the social engineering techniques. You try to find out the passwords of someone through the social engineering. maybe you try to find out all those informations from your colleagues. Okay, what's your wife's name? What's your dog's name? What's your birthday? All those information is critical, right? Somebody might have used that same as the password. That happens to most of the people. So, okay, I have seen people using the wife name or partner's name, girlfriend's name to show them off as well. Okay, I have used your name as my password, right? So all those kinds of things are vulnerable, right? So to make it secure, it is a good practice to not to do that, but people still do that, right? So there is a recent incident that happened because in our office that we have set up a phishing email, right? We have set up a phishing email to collect how many people will click on that link to know the person's cybersecurity perspective, right? So, and from that as well, we can gather the information. Okay, 65% of people are still vulnerable with the phishing attacks, right? So, how many of you know about the phishing attacks? Okay, so phishing attacks means suppose you signed up for your Facebook. Okay, somebody knew that. Somebody know your email. Somebody sends you email in a bulk. Okay, if he or she has, if the attacker has the list of email address, it just randomly, he or she doesn't know that it's somebody is going to click or not, but they're gonna send an email, but that email looks like a genuine email that came from Facebook, but behind that, when you click on some links, it's gonna get you to a similar page that looks like Facebook, but it doesn't look, but it's not Facebook. If you fail to read that URL attached to that, you are gone. Right? So these days we use the phones. Everybody uses the cell phones, right? We put our password, we put our username in the phone itself because we are in a hurry, right? People don't have time these days, and people tend to get much into phishing based on that. So you might receive an phone call. Obviously, that's called phishing. You might receive a phone call, right? Okay, I'm just calling from the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. Okay, blah blah blah, whatever the description that they give to prove them they are genuine, and they ask for your bank number, PIN number, and everything. That happens. We get the spam calls lots of the time, and we also get the spam emails, spam SMS. So just try to make yourself secure, right? Understand about the threat intelligence gathering as well. So threat intelligence gathering helps to create a better tool in the world. Because if something vulnerable is going on around the world, because the world is too big, we only see it small. We are living in this small class over here. And there are lots of dozy things going on around the world at the same time that we are speaking here. So to gather all those vulnerabilities or to gather all those bad things going on around the world, Python can be used to create a threat intelligence tool. So Nessus is the one. So if you haven't heard about the Nessus, you can just search it, Nessus, right? That's one of the best tool to list out all those vulnerabilities in the world. It still can't lead the 0-day vulnerability, right? 0-day vulnerability means it comes, it attacks, and it goes, right? It comes just right at the point. That information is not available all around the world. All right. So encryption and decryption can be done using this. We studied that, right? So what is AES and RSA algorithms? Because that's a process of how encryption can be done, right? So that's an algorithm that's being used to secure the data, but people don't know how it is actually done. Because if they provide the information, right? Okay, this is the way that actually this AES encryption works. Then people can create a decryption technique within just an hour or two. So we talked lots about the encryption and algorithms. What's the hashing? How many of you have used the hashing? Hmm? Okay. What is hashing? Anyone online? So hashing is changing it into the different forms. Right. So let's say, how many of you have used the tools GitLab, Git, GitHub? Any tools you used? Anyone? Right? It uses the hashing algorithms in it. So you write some code, you push it into the GitLab or GitHub or whatever. Let's represent it as a Git. You push it in the Git remote repository, it creates a hash out of it, right? With that hash, right? With that hash that it has created, you can actually fetch the data, right? It is the another form of your data, right? It is another form of your data. So what if that hash key is found by someone else? Because it has a different hash key. What if that hash key is found by someone else in the world? Right? So they can use the same hash key to fetch the data. Suppose, let's say, for example, how many of you check the uh, hash key or hash value after downloading the files? Suppose you downloaded Microsoft VS Code, for example. So the hash key gives the genuine, if it checks if it is genuine or not, right? You downloaded the VS Code. After that, if you, because it also gives you the hash key to verify it. After you verify with that hash key, right? Now it is not matching with that hash key. It says error. This hash key doesn't match with the product that you have downloaded. That means what you have to think in that stage, that your product is dodgy, that your product that you have downloaded is not correct, right? It might have some vulnerabilities in it. If it is the actual product that's given by the Microsoft, right, that product, that hash key will match. That hash key can be used to match that. So it is some sorts of a key which can be used to verify, or it can have public and the private keys as well in case of hashing, right? So if the private keys and public keys matches, right? If the private and the public hash matches, that means that's genuine. If it doesn't match, then there is something going on over there. All right, so next step, guys. Next step. You have to set up the DVWA yourself. It is a very easy process. Let me check if I can go here and share it to you. If I do Google DVWA, that's it, right? So you can just find so many DVWAs over here. You can just download it, verify with your hash, you can set it up. It's a PHP web application. After you download and install it, it's a web applications. After you run that, you can find something. You might find a login, right? And to which you have to crack it, obviously. And you can try to use all those Python codes that I have given to you over here. There is an example that's going on. Okay. How can we make the automated SQL injection testing? Right? What is SQL injection? First, let us learn that. Otherwise, it might be a very confusing thing. SQL, to get the data, you write some queries. Select asterisk from this table, this column, this field. I need this, blah, blah, blah. But it gives the query, it gives the result, right, if the query is correct, if the query is right? But 1 equals to 1, is it correct? 1 equals 1, is it true from the, let's say 1 equals 1, is it true or not? True. Obviously it's true, right? If it is true, it might give you all the data in the SQL queries. If there is no proper settings done to check, to validate all those inputs, if it is 1 by 1 equals 1, you go there, right? You go to the URL, you just put over there 1 equals 1. You just do the question mark, that means you are passing the parameters. 1 equals 1, that's true. 2 equals 2 is true, right? So if it is true, it might give you all those informations, all those data in that SQL database. If you get all those data in that SQL database, what else do you need? Nothing. The whole application is in your hands now, right? If you are a hacker. So if that information goes to the person who has a bad intention, right? They can do anything with that. They can just run another query, delete that data, delete the whole of the SQL data. That's it, done. Then after that, what happens? If that whole data is deleted, then there will be an outage, obviously. The application won't run. And so this is just an example you can use to test it in the, there are lots of examples that you find online, but this is just a basic example. And you can automate that. You can just run it in a loop, check it, and run that to do the automated SQL injection testing. What is a brute force attack? Try until you die, until you run out of memory in your host, right? So what brute force attack is, it's gonna try all the available username and the passwords. It's gonna try the combination of the password. Suppose if you know from somehow the application or the password length is just 6 characters. The password length used is just 6 characters. If you know from somehow, then you can start trying it. You can just run the automated script. You can start with the characters. Okay, start with A, go to Z. Start with B, go to Z. There might be millions of combinations out of it. But if your computing capacity is too high, if from where you are running the code, your computing capacity is too high, it might not take long, right? After it matches, what will happen? You can crack, you can get into to the application as a genuine user. You can do whatever you want. You can fetch the data, you can sell the data. That's it. But let's use these things as for the good purpose. Let's use these things to learn. Rather than using it for the bad purpose, if you use it for the good purpose, then that will give you more information because you'll dig more into it. So best practices. I have been explaining this, how to make secure, how to secure the Python coding, right? So the main motive is to not let the bad persons to get into the applications. That's our main motive. So what are the common vulnerabilities? There are lots of common vulnerabilities. There might be some of it here. So, and what is the best practices? To secure your applications from the SQL injection attack, you can do the input validation, right? You only take the input if it is correct, right? You use the secure libraries. As I explained before, if somebody is using the vulnerable libraries, then your application is already vulnerable. With a single libraries, your application is vulnerable. Somebody can get into the application. Avoid hard coding. Avoid hard coding means make a use of the available libraries that's already in the world, because that library is being used by all the developers around the world, right? If there is a vulnerability in that, it will get patched in seconds, minutes. You can just update that library in seconds. If you do the hard coding, what will happen? You have to check your code first. You have to check your code first where the vulnerability is. Then you have to fix it yourself. It might take months. But if you make use of the available library, what will happen? You can just patch your systems in minutes. Okay, I update my. You can just run the command. Update my Python package to this version. That's it. You are secure. You can just go to bed. Update the dependencies, update the libraries as well, and authentication and authorizations. You have to make your authentication and authorization secure. You have to make your password policy very strong. At least 14 characters, the Microsoft suggests now. Make your password at least 14 characters. Error handling. Suppose if some malicious people can see the error, right? The server can give you any sorts of error. So in that error as well, there might be some critical things that it does solve, right? If it suppose if the error comes up, right, while you are debugging your code, if the error comes up, it does so. Okay, this file has the error in this line. The attacker will get that information. Okay, it has this file. It has the error in this file. If you have the proper try and catch, error handling. If you have the proper error handling, you can just throw the custom messages that the attacker can don't understand server error. What's the server error? The attacker will take too many times to find out the server error. In the meanwhile, you can just fix it out. Proper error handling is very important, and also the secure file handling, because everything is file. Suppose you upload the images over there, you upload the images in the Facebook, right? You only have a limited number of friends in the Facebook, right? I cannot see your Facebook, I cannot see his Facebook, I cannot see his Facebook until we are friends, right? But if the file handling of the Facebook is not secure, for example, I can go over there, I can try the URLs, okay. Suppose if it even gives all those information in the URL itself, right, without any encryption or without creating a token of it, If it gives that clear information, okay, this is my username, this is the file name.png, right? If file name.jpg, I can just go over there, write some Python scripts, right? And run the file scanning in it. Then I can just find the file names out of it. And I can just use your private data, private images that you have uploaded in Facebook. Even if you have not even shared with your friends, I can fetch that. Or the malicious attacker can fetch that. Right? So proper file handling is very important. You have to make sure that only the authenticated users, only the correct username and password, only the users with correct username and password can access it. And let's say you are working in a big company, which has 6 departments, right? 70 employees. If it is there will be a lower level employees as well, right? Who work in a service desk. Let's think about the hospital. There are 60 doctors. No, there are 40 doctors, 20 nurses, 10 front desk peoples, right? Who talks on the phone, get all those information, admission, and everything. Is it necessary to for them, the person who stays in the lower level, to get all those information who doctors can access, right? So if there is no any proper file handling, all those reports can be accessed by the, right? People might say, okay, just keep my report very secure, right? If the front level staff get hacked, right? If front level staff want or shares the username or password to someone, that's gone. Here, if there is no proper file handling, then using that username and password, the attacker can get into that, fetch all the reports from the, for let's say 100 patients. Then based on that, they can start attacking to them, right? Suppose if someone has a heart problem, is it okay to share that you have a heart problem to everyone? No, right? That's your private data. Same goes to the data as well. Proper data handling should be there. So data sanitization and escaping. What is data sanitization? Share only the information that is required to be shared. Sanitize the data, right? Put the blockage out in that data. Implement HTTPS to secure the web applications and APIs. Just implement HTTPS to make it secure. And what is a security training? I think I gave you almost some of the security trainings in your mind today. So it is my responsibility as a tutor to make you understand how it can be used and how it can be used securely, not in a bad way, right? So you can just practice it just on this DVW applications. You can also find so many online applications that you can use. It is available for public use for the cybersecurity enthusiast or the Python enthusiast as well. So my only suggestion is just think about the security while you write your code from every perspective. Just question yourself, is it okay if I write this code? It gives me the result, but is it secure? That should be your next question. It gives me output, but is it secure? That should be in your mind while writing the code. I think that should be it for today.